Throughout all epochs of human history, there has always been something unchanging. Outstanding individuals, astonishing discoveries, impressive events, grand wars, all of these accompanied humanity from ancient times to the present day. But there was another phenomenon that often survived the ages even more successfully and remained in the memory and conversations of subsequent generations. This phenomenon was, is, and most likely will remain for many centuries to come: mysteries. Unsolved riddles of the past, diverse in age and origin, stirred the imaginations of conspiracy lovers, evoked genuine curiosity in ordinary people, and forced researchers to puzzle over possible explanations. Over time, thanks to scientific progress, studies, and experiments, many of these riddles have been clarified, yet a significant portion still hides behind a veil of the unknown. Today, we turn to one such mystery. We will talk about one of the most recognizable and at the same time enigmatic monuments of antiquity. We present to you the Great Sphinx and its secrets. So, let us begin, as usual, with the basics. What is this object? Where is it located? Who created it, and during which period? And why is it called Great? The Great Sphinx is a monumental sculpture in Egypt, located next to the first of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Pyramid of Khufu. It is considered the oldest monumental statue preserved to our time, as well as the largest monolithic stone statue on Earth. Its height reaches about 20 meters, and its length is approximately 73 meters. To understand the scale, that's the height of a 7-story building and nearly 3 basketball courts in length. Impressive, isn't it? By the way, for a long time many people believed that only the Sphinx's head had survived. This is clearly visible in one of the most famous works of art, the painting Bonaparte before the Sphinx. In it, the French ruler gazes at a huge noseless head rising from the desert sands. Where, then, was the rest of the body, and where did the nose go? We'll tell you later. But first, let's try to find out who created the statue whose dimensions no one has managed to replicate even after millennia. The paradox is that science does not have a precise answer to these questions. Why is that? Let's take a closer look. The most common theory among Egyptologists claims that the Sphinx was constructed at the same time as the Pyramid of Khafre, the second oldest pyramid after that of Khufu. This conclusion is based on the fact that the blocks used to build the nearby temple match in structure and size the material of the pyramid. But why not simply take a sample of stone from the Sphinx itself and analyze it? Because Egyptian authorities strictly prohibit any excavations in its immediate vicinity and especially any actions that might damage the ancient monument. The reason is understandable. Even minor interference could harm the statue, already weakened by time. There is also an alternative viewpoint. Conspiracy theorists insist that a library of the legendary Atlanteans lies hidden beneath the Sphinx, and its discovery could change world history. If we follow the theory that the Sphinx was built during the reign of Khafre, then its age exceeds 4,500 years. It is believed that the facial features of the statue belong specifically to this pharaoh. This idea is supported by the discovery of a small portrait of Khafre carved from volcanic rock. However, there are several arguments that cast doubt on this hypothesis. First of all, the Sphinx's face bears virtually no resemblance to other depictions of the pharaoh or his relatives. Consider its age and possible mistakes by the craftsman, an untrained observer might say. But it's important to remember, even in the 3rd millennium BC, Egyptian sculptors possessed remarkable skill and could create extremely accurate likenesses. So error is unlikely. Moreover, the differences are too obvious. The entire face has different proportions. There is also another lesser-known hypothesis. The Sphinx was originally a statue of a lion, and later, by order of one of the rulers, its head was reshaped into a human likeness, supposedly resembling the ruler himself. An additional argument for this idea is the inventory stele, discovered in Giza in 1857. According to its text, the statue existed long before Khafre's reign. But the most discussed fact is that the lower part of the Sphinx shows clear traces of water erosion. Such damage is possible only under prolonged exposure to water. But where could water have come from in the desert? The formation of such erosion marks would require either a strong flood, a large-scale deluge, or an extremely high flood stage of the Nile, events that occurred at the end of the 4th to 3rd millennium BC, that is, earlier than Khafre's time. Therefore, today's science cannot give a definitive answer as to who created this enormous statue of a lion with human features. Now let us return to the missing nose and the sands. Over thousands of years, the Sphinx was repeatedly almost completely buried in sand. Even during the time of Thutmose IV and Ramesses II, it was so deeply covered that only the front paws were visible. Many stories are connected with the clearing of the statue. One of the most famous claims that Thutmose supposedly saw the god Ra in a dream, who commanded him to uncover the statue hidden beneath the sands. It was only in the 20th century that the Sphinx was fully excavated, thanks to the long-term efforts of European researchers. So what happened to the nose? There is no definitive explanation. One theory suggests it was destroyed by severe erosion and natural processes. Another, more widespread but dubious, claims that it was blown off by a cannonball during clashes between French and Turkish forces under Napoleon in 1798. However, historical evidence shows that the nose was missing long before the arrival of the French. Sometimes the British or Ottomans are blamed. There is even a story about a fanatic who allegedly broke part of the face during a religious ritual. Over time, the Sphinx lost not only its nose but also its beard, the ritual false beard typical of pharaonic depictions. Scholars debate whether it originally belonged to the statue or was added later. It also remains unclear how exactly the Sphinx was built, whether the stone was brought in or the statue was carved from natural bedrock on site. Some researchers believe that the original shape of the rock already resembled a lion's form, similar to the Sphinx in Balochistan, which was created entirely by natural forces. The image of the Egyptian Sphinx eventually became a symbol not only in Egypt but also in the cultures of many peoples around the world, from the Balkans to Southeast Asia. In ancient Greek mythology, it transformed into a terrifying creature, the Sphinx, who posed riddles to travelers. The very famous one, who walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 in the evening? In Egyptian myths, there are scenes where the Sphinx acts as a guardian protecting the pharaoh's rest hidden beneath the pyramids. And what do you think? Who could have created the Sphinx, and in what era? Share your thoughts in the comments. That's all for today. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and don't forget to click the bell so you don't miss new fascinating episodes. See you soon, friends!